The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's US-based and available in 40 states. Head to cut.com, that's KUTC.com, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by Nordic Fantasy. Play their fantasy pick'em for a chance to win 100 times your money in NBA, NHL, college basketball, and more. Sign up today using promo code SGPN to get a 100% deposit match. We're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports fan research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the app or visit HOPENY.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Friday morning, early Friday morning, roughly 2:40 a.m. Eastern Time for March 22nd. I'm your host, always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Should be a fun episode, but a bit of a longer one. I did promise we were going to return to our usual schedule, and as a result, that does mean since Miami is a Masters 1000 event, we are going to cover every round. So we're going to have a lot of tennis episodes for the next week or two. This is the second round episode, the round of 64. So it should be fun. We'll get into all the matches in a second. But either way, the point is, should be a fun overall tournament, and it definitely looks like it so far. And I do think, once again, you are going to be seeing more upsets, more entertaining matches. Had a decent amount of them, actually, for the first couple of days, and I'm going to recap that in a second. Before we get into any of that, I do want to remind everybody to check out the podcast either on YouTube, and when you do so, like and subscribe, or you can rate and review the podcast on Spotify or Apple, regardless of how you are consuming those. The podcast point is we have it on YouTube and we have it on Spotify or Apple, so whichever works for you. Plus, a reminder that we have some merch on the SGPN merch store for the Tennis Gambling Podcast. So we have shirts, we have mugs, etc. So if you want to support the show, you should do so by buying yourself some merch. Now, time to get into the actual recap of the first round, starting off with the actual lock and dog picks. Overall, decent episode. Ended up winning the lock, and we lost the dog. For the lock, nice and easy winner with Draper to win in straight sets at minus 142. Line kind of flew in our favor, and it worked out as you ended up seeing him destroy Tyro Daniel as he won that in straight sets 6-3, 6-2. Daniel's been a mess ever since he made the final in Auckland. We faded him, and Draper looked fully healthy after not playing for about a week and change, and as a result, he ended up getting the job done 6-3, 6-2. So nice winner there. Unfortunately, though, did lose the dog. Tried to go back to the well with Arnaldi having a 3-set marathon. Unfortunately, did not work out because Fees was really, really bad for most of the match. Arnaldi won in straight sets, and not only did he end up dominating, but he did not face a single break point. Now, I'm not saying that Fees is automatically a better player than Arnaldi. He's had a really bad year so far, but 0 break points is embarrassing. Arnaldi's not exactly known for being a great server by any means, and Fees did not threaten at all in the return game for the entire match. So I think you might have noticed Fees has kind of been on a thorn in our sides for the last couple of months at this point. I'm probably going to stay away from Fees moving forward, at least for the immediate future, until he turns around his fortune or his overall performance, because he's been a mess. And for that reason, I'm going to stay away from him. But either way, point is I wanted to mention that Fees let us down, and Arnaldi looked great, is what it is. Picked up a loss there on the dog. As for the other first round matches, I'm going to go in order. So starting off with some of the news lines on the Wednesday card. So for starters, you saw Shapovalov actually win a match. Congratulations, as he was able to beat Darderi in a fun 3-set marathon. Darderi ended up winning the second in a tiebreak. You kind of thought Chapo would implode. He did not, as he won the final set 6-4. Besides that, you ended up seeing an interesting matchup between Caboli and Nishioka, which Caboli did win in 3. Shout out to that guy who's been a pretty solid cash cow for us. Not automatically winning. I think that Shevchenko has never let us down. I'll get to his match in a second. But the point is Caboli got the job done as he ended up beating Nishioka in 3. Besides that, you saw Makic beating Blanche in straight sets, and Blanche is a relatively, I don't want to say he's a prodigy, but he's kind of being viewed as being a potential up-and-comer, and he ended up getting beaten by Makic in straight sets. Nothing really else to add. You had the high-profile matchup between Murray and Berrettini. Damn, that match would have looked a lot better in like 2017, but still. Point is, Berrettini ended up almost fainting in the match as the weather in Miami, I guess, was bothering him, and Berrettini ended up losing after that. I believe he won the first set, then was down a break in the second. Then he almost fell over trying to serve, and they ended up having a medical timeout. He stayed in the match, he finished it, but he looked completely out of it, and the court coverage was not there. As Murray made him run around, he couldn't do so, and Murray did win that one in 3 sets. So nice winner there. I am going to point out, though, once again, with the fainting, Berrettini was not the first player to actually faint or so during the actual Miami tournament, because you might remember Kaza ended up fainting in the middle of his match against Mayotte in qualifying, and he had to retire midway through the 3rd set. The weather in Miami, from what I've gathered, has not exactly been insanely hot. You figure with Miami and people fainting, it would probably rival Australia, where it'd be in the 90s, but it actually has not. It's been in the 70s. And for whatever reason, maybe it's the humidity, you have seen a couple of players struggle, I'd say physically, into the climate, and Berrettini was one of those guys. Besides that, going through some of the other storylines from the first day, Shang won a marathon against Kekmanovic. That was a lot of fun. Won that match 7-6, 4-6, 7-6. You ended up seeing Dam, the American, beat Zhang in straight sets, and a bit of an upset there. Mickelson beat Klein. Kempfer ended up beating Giron in 3. And I mentioned before, Arnaldi ended up beating Fees in straight sets. And moving on to the Thursday matches, a couple of storylines here. First and foremost, going a bit out of order, Nishikori made his return. He did not look good, but he made his return. I saw he was kind of a popular dog on Twitter, and he was extremely flat, as you ended up seeing Offner beat him pretty comfortably, as Offner got the job done 6-3, 6-4. Besides that, though, you saw Tabilo beating Nakashima in 3 sets. Entertaining match there. You ended up seeing Hanfman beat Rusevori in an upset that ended up going 3. Besides that, you saw a potential up-and-comer win his first ever ATP match, as former U.S. Open Juniors champion Juan DeLucci ended up winning his first ever match as he beat Munar in 3 sets, 7-5 in the 3rd. Besides that, trying to go through what else really happened, Evans ended up beating Sonego in 3. What else was there? Sorry, just kind of looking around. Shevchenko had an absolute marathon against Galan. Crowd was extremely against Shevchenko, kind of booed him during the end. Didn't help that Shevchenko kind of egged on the crowd, but either way, 2 hours and 55 minutes, and Shevchenko did get the job done, winning 7-5 in the final set. You ended up seeing Monfils beat Lajovic in straight sets, and last but not least, Schwartzman did qualify, and then he got his ass kicked as he ended up losing in straight sets to, drawing a blank, to Safulin, who ended up beating him 6-2, 6-4. Forgot to also mention that Borges ended up losing in his first round match, as he ended up going to the final, and he actually won a challenger event in Phoenix over the past week. Then he faced off against Seaboth Wild, and he ended up losing that match. So point is, Borges ended up making a deep run. Another guy, whether it's challenger or singles, another example of fading a guy off a title the tournament after, and Borges ended up losing in the first round there. Nothing else to really add. Once again, couple of competitive matches, couple of straightforward ones. Either way, though, time to actually get into the picks for the, or I should say the preview for the matches in the second round. Now, a reminder of the overall format, we are not going to cover every match. There are too many of them. Instead, we are going to kind of just bounce around whichever matches catch my eye. Some of them might have odds, some of them might not have odds, but the point is we are going to cover a couple of matches that I think are intriguing, few matches per day, and then we'll wrap up the show with the Lock and Dog picks. But before we get to any of that, do you want to take a quick word from our sponsor? We're brought to you by Merch Madness. 15% off everything in the merch store, promo code Madness. So if you are looking for some Tennis Scaling Podcast and merch, we have shirts available on the actual merch store, and you can definitely get a couple of them with a nice discount, because you get 15% off everything in the merch store, once again, with the promo code Madness. We're also brought to you by Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's U.S.-based and available in 40 states. Peer-to-peer social betting is a new and better way to bet directly against your friends or other users on sports, politics, pop culture, and other events with verifiable outcomes, plus a ton of social features that give it the feel of a betting social network. Cut offers lower vig and fully customizable odds so you can create your own bets. Cut handles the payment side of things, so you never have to worry about chasing down your money. Social features include group chats, betting leaderboards, head-to-head history, user profiles, fan groups, and more. And they also have great rewards. Get cash back every single time you bet against your friends or other users. So download Cut today in the App Store or over at cut.com. That's KUTT, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the place to play fantasy sports because it is the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. They have great pick'em games. For example, you can pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total into their upcoming games. You can win up to 100 times your money in a single night. Pick between 2 and 5 players to build a pick'em entry. And you can also make rivals picks, which pits 2 players against each other. So you can pick which player you think might have more points, for example, in an NBA game. But a reminder that you should also join Underdog Fantasy because they have a lot of very fun markets for tennis. They have, for example, breaks of serve. They have aces. They have a lot of fun tennis options to make matches more interesting, and I recommend you joining the platform in order to take advantage of those opportunities. So sign up today with promo code SGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100, as well as an instant pick'em special. Visit underdogfantasy.com or find them on the App Store, and don't forget to register with the promo code SGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100, as well as an instant pick'em special. Must be 18 plus and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished recapping the first round of Miami. Now it's time to dive into some of the matches for the round of 64. Starting off in really no order, just going by what matches catch my eye. I am going to look at the Shapovalov match taking on Tsitsipas. In this one, Tsitsipas is the favorite, as the current pricing has Tsitsipas at around a minus 220 favorite. Shapo's around plus 190. As for the spread, Tsitsipas minus 2.5 games is minus 115, and Shapo plus 2.5 is minus 105. Over-under is set at 23.5 with some juice towards the under. If you want the set wagering, Tsitsipas to win in straight sets is plus 120. Shapo to win a set is minus 150. Match to go 3 sets is plus 135. Now, both players have been really bad so far in 2024. Tsitsipas has looked better than Shapo, but still, the point is both guys have been really unpredictable, mostly bad, and that should result in a pretty fun match. Now, in the head-to-head, in their careers, it's been very close, as Shapo is actually ahead, 3-2 in the head-to-head. Now, Tsitsipas did beat him in the last meeting, but that was on clay, so I am going to toss it out. They faced off in 2020 on the ATP Cup, and you ended up seeing, or in the ATP Cup, and Shapo did win in straight sets. The point is, you've seen a lot of matches, but not many recent, because you ended up seeing a 2023 clay match, and every other match was 2020 or prior. They did face off, though, in Miami, same exact event in 2019, and Shapo did beat him in 3 sets. Simply put, based on the overall form of both guys, I got to lean to the over in this one. I know Tsitsipas looked okay in Indian Wells, beating Pui and beating Tiafoe before losing to Leheshka in straight sets. Shapo's been okay, not great. Beat the Zandschulp in straight sets in Indian Wells, then lost to Musetti in 3, and then ended up beating Darderi in the first round of Miami. I can't trust Tsitsipas. I'm not laying 220. You can make the argument he should be favored. I agree. Would I ever lay 220 with Tsitsipas at this point in time? Absolutely not. The guy can't return, and that's been the story of the season for him because he can't string together wins. Is he going to win? Probably. I still think Tsitsipas is a better player than Shapovalov right now and even back in their primes. But still, the point is with a 3-2 head-to-head, you are looking at a good price with the dog at plus 190. I like the over in general. I see a longer match. Give me a 3-setter, so I don't mind that plus price of about plus 135. But still, I think the value alone is on Shapo. I really don't see much value on Tsitsipas. I'm not saying that, once again, Shapo is going to win this match, but the pricing feels off. So because of that, I am going to go with the dog, and I am going to lean to the over in this match. Moving on to the next match, you have a pretty interesting matchup between Murray and Etcheverry, where Murray is a favorite. I'm going to get into the lines in a second. A reminder, though, this is a rematch of the Australian Open, where Etcheverry absolutely curb-stomped Murray, winning 6-4, 6-2, 6-2, and a pretty embarrassing showing there by Murray in the first Grand Slam of the year. Now, Murray has kind of regained his form a bit after losing to, for example, Benoit Paire a couple of weeks or a month ago or two, But still, the point is Murray's back on track to some degree after beating Berrettini in the first round, where Echeverry's battled some injuries, so hopefully he's back to 100%. Now, Murray's around minus 160, and Echeverry's around plus 140. As for the game spread, Murray minus 2.5 is minus 105, and Echeverry plus 2.5 is minus 115. Over-under for games is set at 22.5. The over is minus 105. Under is minus 115. As for the set wagering, you can find Murray in straight sets at plus 145, Echeverry in straight sets at plus 300, Echeverry to win a set is minus 175, and match to go 3 sets is plus 145. Now, they faced off 3 times in their careers. Echeverry's looked pretty sharp in these matches. All 3 were on hard court recently, actually, because they faced off in Australia this year, faced off in Basel and in Indian Wells last year, and each match ended up being a competitive one. At least I should say each 2 out of 3 set match ended up being competitive because Echeverry won in straight sets in Australia. You ended up seeing him win in 3 sets in Basel, and he ended up losing in 3 in Indian Wells after winning the first set via tiebreak. So the point is, Echeverry, if he's even in decent form, I like his chances. The problem is he ended up playing in Buenos Aires, got injured against Jari, and then did not play in Indian Wells. So it's his first match back in roughly a month, and now he's on hardcore changing surfaces. I agree with Murray being favored. I'm not saying he's going to dominate. We know Murray tends to find himself in some marathons. With the surface change and the lack of durability for Echeverry recently, I have a hard time trusting him in this spot. So I'm going to lean to Murray. I don't feel great about it because, once again, Echeverry has kind of gotten the better of Murray in the last couple hardcore meetings. But with the current, I'd say, fitness issues with Echeverry, I understand why Murray's favored. It's a lot of wait and see for Echeverry. Maybe if you want to make the case for Echeverry to maybe be a live bet option, if you look sharper in the middle, or it's just at the beginning stages of the match, I don't mind that philosophy. But for a pre-match bet on a guy that has not played in a month and a guy that has not played on a hard court for longer, I can't take Echeverry. Simply put, it's either Murray or pass for me. Probably going to be a pass, but still, I do understand why Murray's favored, even though Echeverry's gotten the better of him over the last couple of meetings. Moving on to what should be a very competitive match, you have Greek Sport taking on Mickelson, roughly minus 110 apiece. Never faced off before in the head-to-head. This match should be interesting. Greek Sport was in great form back in a couple of tournaments. He ended up making a deep run in Rotterdam, tried to carry that over into Dubai, ended up losing to Bublik in straight sets. Then he beat Hoffman in Indian Wells, lost to Zverev. No shame in that. 9-7 in the first set breaker. And now he's in Miami. Now, as for Mickelson, beat Klein in the first round of Miami. Had a good run in Los Cabos, obviously, before choking that match away to the inevitable champion in Thompson. Beat Munar and then got killed by Paul in Indian Wells. So he's been in okay form, not great. I think Greek Sport is the more consistent player. Mickelson might have some upside. He's still young, still working out some things with his game. I think Greek Sport has just been around the block a few more times, and as a result, if this match gets dicey, I do trust Greek Sport to deliver more in big moments. The crowd support will be in favor of Mickelson, obviously, because he's American, but still, I am going to lean to Greek Sport. I just think, simply put, he's the better player. Moving on to Bublik versus Arnaldi. You're looking at Bublik being a slight favorite in this match, as Bublik is around minus 133, where Arnaldi is around plus 113. As for the actual game spread, Bublik minus 1.5 is minus 105, and you have Arnaldi plus 1.5 at minus 115. Over-under set at 23. The over-under in sets is set at plus 120 on the over and minus 150 on the under for 2.5. Now, Bublik is the better hardcore player, but he has not played in Miami yet. He had a bye after losing in Indian Wells, so he's been having a bit of time off. He has not actually played a match since losing to de Minaur on the 10th. So he's been off for about 2 weeks, give or take, where Arnaldi played a great match against Fees, did end up killing our dog pick, but it is what it is. Not Arnaldi's fault. He just played very well. Point is, though, he's already used to the courts in Miami, and he has been looking a lot sharper lately. Did take a set off Alcaraz, for example, in Indian Wells, who inevitably won the title. So he's been in good form. Lost in 3 to Shelton in Acapulco after beating Fritz in 3. I'm going to lean to Arnaldi. I just think he's in better form. We know Bublik can be a head case, and if the heat potentially gets to him, Bublik might end up punting. I see a long match, though. I am going to lean to the over. I'm not going to get fully discouraged from losing the over 2.5 set play in the previous Arnaldi match. It's been a good move historically to take the over. Same with Bublik, who tends to punt sets all the time, especially this year. I like an over. I like a very long match, but I am going to lean to the dog here. I just don't trust Bublik playing his first match in about 12 days, laying 133. Moving on to any other matches that catch my eye. And that's basically it for the first day. I am going to mention that I think the Shang and Fekina match should be really good. Shang 1-3 in the first round against Hikmanovic. You saw Fekina not play in the first round. He had a bye. Ended up losing to Fees, though, in Indian Wells in straight sets. Bad loss there because Fees has been in really bad form so far this year. I ended up losing to Medvedev in straight sets in Dubai. Ended up winning in a set and change against Mensik. Mensik got injured. He was exhausted after having the final run to Doha, and I do think that Fekina was fortunate with the scheduling. But either way, point is, I'm going to lean to Shang. I see a close match. I'm going to lean to the over, but I do think that with Fekina's inconsistency, I just have a hard time trusting him based on his current form. It's a coin flip match. I'm going to lean to the over, but I do think that you're looking at a pretty good value price for Shang at around plus 120, give or take. Over 2.5 sets, those plus 130. I don't mind that. Give me a competitive match. Now, moving on to the Saturday slate, you have a couple of interesting matches. Alcaraz, massive favorite against Baena. He's going to destroy Baena. Not going to bother talking about it. You have Cerundolo taking on Offner. In this one, Cerundolo is a favorite. I am going to point out, though, that Offner did look good against Nishikori. Nishikori hadn't played much tennis, but still, a win is a win. As for Cerundolo, he has been fine. Ended up beating Shevchenko in about a set and a half because Shevchenko got injured. Made a relatively respectable run in Rio before losing to Baez, who inevitably won the tournament. I believe that was in the semis. And then he lost to Shelton in 3 sets in Indian Wells. Fun match there, was a marathon, but could not win a breaker. I see a close match. I'm going to lean to the over. I just think you're looking at what should be a very competitive one. Offner, including the straight set win against Nishikori, has gone to 3 sets in 3 of his last 5 on hard court. So with that being the case, I have to assume this match will be close. I do think that Cerundolo is the better player. So if this does end in straight sets, it's going to benefit Cerundolo. But I expect a longer match, and I think you might find some value on the over 2.5 sets. You can find over 2.5 sets at plus 125. I don't mind it. Maybe you want the over in games instead at 22.5. Probably would be the way that I would play it, but still give me a somewhat close match that I think Cerundolo inevitably wins. Moving on to the next match I'm going to talk about. De Gire against Khachanov, I think, is pretty fascinating. De Gire is a massive dog here, and Khachanov has won each of the first 3 meetings in straight sets. Only one meeting, though, on a hardcore face-off in Paris last year. De Gire looked fine in the first round against Wong, not amazing by any means. I think that probably you see Khachanov win in straight sets. Maybe a breaker, though, so if you want to make a case for an over, I don't necessarily mind it if the line is relatively short. It's at 22. Not bad. I think I probably prefer a 21.5 because I can see a breaker in there. But I do think it'll be close. It'll be fun. But Khachanov probably wins in straight sets. Moving on to the next match I'm going to talk about, you have Monfils taking on Thompson. For this one, Monfils is a decent favorite, surprisingly, as he's around minus 138. Match should be somewhat close. I am going to point out, though, that Monfils has regained his form. He's looked a lot sharper lately. He's won 4 of the last 5 that he's played in. Beat Nori, beat Hurkacz, beaten some good competition. Thompson had a miracle run in Los Cabos to win his first ever ATP title. Since then, he's been struggling, lost to Shang and lost to Kovacevic. So he's not been in good form. I think Monfils has been looking a lot sharper. He's kind of turned the clock back to some degree. I am going to link to Monfils to get the job done as he ended up beating Lajovic in the first round in straight sets. Thompson did not actually face off against anybody in Miami. He had a bye. So with that being the case, I think Monfils is going to be more adjusted to the courts. I am going to go with Monfils to get the job done in this one. Besides that, trying to think of any other matches I'm tempted by. I think Shevchenko is going to be exhausted against Hurkacz. Hurkacz has been in bad form, but still, we saw them face off in Marseille a couple of weeks ago, basically a month ago, and Hurkacz beat him 6-1, 6-4. I think Hurkacz wins. I know he has not been in great form lately, but the pace, or I should say the speed of the courts in Miami is playing fast which benefits Hurkacz with the serve. And Shevchenko went about 3 hours against Galan. So I am going to go with Hurkacz in the straight sets there. Nothing else to really add. You have Zverev taking on Felix, which should be a fun match. I think that Zverev's going to win because Felix has been up and down and Zverev's been a bit more solid, but they have not faced off since 2022. Felix has won 2 of the last 3 meetings. The head-to-head, though, is a 5-3 Zverev. So if you want to make a case for the over, I'm not going to argue with you, but I do think Zverev gets the job done, and I do think he is going to move on to the next round. That's going to wrap it up, though, for the actual picks for some matches. A reminder, though, since there are a lot of matches, since it is a Masters 1000 event, we did skip a lot. Apologies there. We are going to be going through a higher percentage of the matches moving forward, obviously, since there are less matches. Point is, though, went through the ones that caught my eye. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. But before we continue that, do want to take a quick word once again from our sponsors. We're brought to you by Game Time. I don't know about all of you, but I personally love attending sport events in person. It used to be very annoying to actually find a ticketing platform that I could trust, but that changed once I found Game Time, because Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. They have great last-minute deals on tickets, and their best price guarantee means you can stop stressing over the tickets, and you can start getting hyped over the fun that you're going to have. My favorite feature is going to definitely be the images of seat views, which is very, very useful for me, because maybe you've had an experience like this where you have bought a ticket to a sporting event, and you ended up finding your seats, and you realize that there's a pole or an obstruction in your line of view. So you paid a lot of your hard-earned money, and you're not able to see anything that you actually paid to see. So that's not going to happen with Game Time, because they will show you the image of the view you're going to get before you actually spend money. So you'll always get a good view of the action. Plus, Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget plenty months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event, and exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So sign tickets without the stress. With Game Time, download the app and create an account and use the code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger betting smarter this NBA season with Hall of Fame Bets. Sports Analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NBA and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bets' revolutionary pro optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the app at HOPEBets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing the round of 64 matches in Miami. Now it is time for the pick section of the show, the lock and dog picks. Starting off with the lock, I am going to go to a match that I already talked about. I am going to go to a match taking place on Saturday. It's going to be Monfils. I'm going to take him on the money line at minus 138. Simply put, Monfils been in better form as he's won 4 of his last 5 hardcourt matches, including a win against Norrie and a win against Hurkacz in Indian Wells. So he's in good form, and I do think with that being the case, he's in better form than Thompson. Thompson was in good form as he ended up beating a bunch of people in Los Cabos, including Zverev and Ruud, en route to a title. Since then, though, he has started to regress back to the mean and ended up losing each of his last 2 matches against Shang in straight sets and Kovacevic in 3. I'm going to back Monfils. I just think that he's in better form right now. Thompson, you could argue, ended up peaking. He reached a peak I'm sure a lot of us didn't think he was going to get to, and he's having a hard time of regaining that form as he came crashing back down to earth. The regression just feels real to me, and Monfils has been in really good form so far during the, I'd say, last couple of weeks. So with that being the case, give me Monfils at a pretty good price on the money line at minus 138. For my dog, I am going to go to a matchup taking place on Saturday. This one's going to take place at around 1:40 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the matchup between Bublik and Arnaldi, but I am going to take a play that I did not mention during the actual match breakdown. I'm going to go with the first set money line. I'm going to take Arnaldi on the first set money line at plus 105. We've taken this play before. We've had success with it. Now with Arnaldi, but with fading Bublik in the first set, who is notoriously bad at getting, I'd say, at just overall first set performances, and he's a notoriously slow starter. So Arnaldi has been really fast out of the gates, ended up winning the first set in each of the last 3 matches, including the first set against Alcaraz in Indian Wells before Alcaraz went God mode and won the title. But still, point is Arnaldi did win the first set in 3 straight matches. Bublik, though, has been really bad in the first set. People know that. I'm not sure they realize just how bad he's been in the first set. So dating back a couple of months, Bublik has lost the first set in 13 of his last 17 matches. And a reminder that Arnaldi was in great form in the first round. Beat Fees, did not face a break point. His firepower translated very well to the fast courts in Miami. And on top of that, Bublik, unlike Arnaldi, did not play in the first round. He had a bye, so it might take him some time to adjust to the fast courts in Miami after playing in Indian Wells, which is notoriously known for being slow. The point is Bublik, I think, is going to struggle out of the gates. Arnaldi, we know, is going to come out swinging. He's got a lot of talent for a young player, and Bublik has been really bad early in matches for a couple of months. And Arnaldi's serve may have gotten better. We'll see what happens. Point is, though, give me Bublik to struggle out of the gates and give me Arnaldi to keep rolling in the first set of matches. Plus 105 might seem like a small price, but I think it's definitely a good price. You can argue, based on Bublik once again being 4-13 in the first set in his last 17 matches, it should be like minus 110 apiece, but I'll take the plus money, and I do think Arnaldi will get the job done for us. So once again, my picks for the second round of Miami, the lock's going to be on Monfils on the money line at minus 138, and the dog will be on Arnaldi. First set money line at plus 105. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. We'll back once again in a couple days to go through the round of 32 in Miami. Until then, though, find me on Twitter. Find me on the MLB show. Find me on the NBA show. Bunch of other shows at the network. Until next time, though, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.